Does a woman's vagina have a limit?
11 centimeters, like 10 centimeters.
No, guys, 10 centimeters. You're in full, bro.
You're fine.
That's the finger in
So
the
that's
bum.
the finger in the bum.
Between your anus and your scrotum.
Aye, bro. Where are we going now? Show us on the ruler there.
How long is it?
It's probably as long as.
Come on.
Roadblock.
You guys shove fingers up.
My name is Suhail Essa.
Dr. Dr.
Dr. Vagina Naidu.
Dr. Brendan Matthews.
Dr. Naseem Sharif.
And this is the
Gentleman's
Gentleman's
Technique
Technique
Podcast.
Podcast.
Good day and welcome to another episode of the Gents Clinic Podcast. 6 South African male medical doctors on a mission to change the way in which we perceive men's healthcare. My name is Dr. Suhail Essa, and joined with me here in the studio is our esteemed guest, Penuel the Black Pen, who is a YouTuber and TikToker who has grown within the last 2 years. He's a proud father of 6, a 13-book author, small-time investor, speaker, and founder of the Penuelism Religion and Culture. And I'm going to let the rest introduce themselves once again.
Dr. Naseem Sharif.
Dr. Vagina Naidu.
Dr. Nhlanhla Vilakazi.
Dr. Brendan Matthews.
And thank you for joining us in the studio today, Penuel. How are you doing?
No, I'm well, thanks. I'm really honored to be here, man. I don't think it's every day people get to sit with like esteemed medical professionals. So I'm honored, and I'm actually quite excited that you guys have set up this platform. I've been looking forward to a lot of niche podcasts in the country, especially that have to do around education that is transformative. So I'm honored. And a big shout out, I know he's been trending on social media a lot. We finally found him. the real Dr. Matthews.
Dr. Matthews.
No, but I'm honored to have met all the gents. Honored to be here.
Thank you for being a part of our clinic. Before we get into, because I know you said you had a bit of a gripe with the medical fraternity as a whole, and you wanted to have your 2 minutes to say what you needed to say. I just want to let all the viewers know that we are very proud to announce we've finally launched our online store. Hey! So now, ladies and gentlemen, after you complete a consultation with us, you can order directly from our website. We'll send you a link that allows you to order with the prescription that we've given you. On offer, we have TRT, all these products, including testosterone troches. We've got testosterone cypionate injections. We also have medication to treat premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, and some other stuff that we'll get to later in the episode. So, Penuel, tell us what's your gripe with the medical fraternity?
It was meant to be like an off-air joke. Jeez, and I see it didn't land.
Off-air joke, so you have no problem with us?
I've got huge problems with you.
Just before we sat down here, I looked on your Instagram, and it's a complaint. It's literally a one-post complaint about seeing a doctor. So tell me what's the issue with seeing medical doctors?
I don't normally do research before I do podcasts, but I wanted to remember all of your names. I think it's very important and respectful. So I'm quite honored to have met all of you officially. I don't have to mention your names. You've introduced yourselves. And I think in previous episodes, you guys have also offered some of your specialities and the like. I've written some posts online about healthcare. I'm one of the people that is very passionate about healthcare. And I find that mainstream society misunderstands healthcare in the same way they misunderstand the difference between education and schooling. So I'm passionate about education, but I've got huge issues with schooling. I'm passionate about holistic healthcare, but I've got issues with particularly commercial healthcare, private, and how it's administered. Not just here, but globally. And I think during the pandemic, it was a great time for us to engage around healthcare. I wrote down some notes, which I don't normally do. And because there's a lot of you, I don't think we're going to get any time to go through them. So I'd like to officially invite you guys, whether individually or you can come as 2 or 3, to come and break down some of the topics. If I get a chance, I'll say them on air so that we keep them as bookmarks and we can remember them. And then we can discuss them at another time.
On your podcast?
I've got 2 different platforms. So on any of my platforms will hit.
100%. That sounds like an amazing venture. Okay, cool.
I also want to add quickly on that. I 100% agree with everything like during COVID, it exposed the healthcare system completely.
Mm.
Now you see what's actually happening. And I really want to also explore that. I think that's a very good.
Thank you. Must I go through my notes in case we run out of time?
I
we
mean,
won't
sure, we can do
discuss-
that a bit later. Yeah,
A bit later.
Yeah, we can.
We have to
Let's jump.
on this podcast. We have to go through some of those topics, please.
Definitely. Unless you want to do it now. Do you want to do it? You want to jump?
I don't want us
into
to discuss them. I want them to be a bookmark so that when we sit another time,
Okay.
we'll
Then we
refer
can
back
discuss
to
them.
this.
Throw them
Yeah.
out then. Yeah, let's keep them as a bookmark.
So some of them are the things that you guys discuss. Very passionate about male fertility. There's a huge misconception around men can have babies until they're 90. So I'd like us to discuss that, reference people like ex-President Jacob Zuma, who had a child over 70. The quality of sperm as you get older, I think is very important. Lifestyle diseases is another space that I'm very passionate about. I do believe, I know YouTube has an issue with mentioning this word, but let's call it taking one's life, because the word itself, normally the algorithms jump. I think the way you eat and the way you live your life is a form of taking your own life. And we need to educate people on how to avoid lifestyle diseases in how they eat. I know I'm from KZN KwaZulu, where back in the day, if you were a Zulu man, the sign of wealth would be how big your stomach is. So we need to discuss those things. I'd like to hear all your thoughts on NHI and potentially its implementation. It trended on social media, and there were a lot of healthcare professionals that were saying things like they want to leave the country. Your thoughts on public versus private healthcare. My frustration with medical doctors, and then maybe revisiting the oath and what about the oath is still relevant, and how certain doctors have broken the oath in how they carry out their work. And is the oath really real, or is it just something that people do because it's cool? Like presidents take oaths and then they go and they break them. Other things, African Muti versus Western medicine, your thoughts. The clip you spoke about on Instagram, which was Dana White, a billionaire from the UFC, who said he'll never, ever trust a doctor with his general health ever again, and what that means. And then some of your thoughts, especially with this podcast and where it's going. Dr. Mike is big online. Dr. Oz, I think, was the god of doctors. He was introduced to us by Oprah. And then he's not a doctor, but Andrew Huberman is brilliant online with educating on some of these topics. 100%. And then just some criticisms from my side and suggestions. I think you guys need to take this on the road. You need to get a live audience. You guys need to take live questions and answer them. I think that would be very dope, even if it's once a month. And then when I first watched the stuff that you guys do, my first thought, because we live in this woke world today, it is just guys. So we speak about diversity, and I wanted to just ask your thoughts on having female hosts as an example, maybe a different platform where women discuss women health issues in a similar vein, and maybe you guys can drive that. But then I also realized when I came here that there's no diversity in terms of where you guys come from. Please, can the other medical schools please be represented? Abo UCT, Nabo Sfako Mahato. But look, man, shout out to Wits Medical School. Shout out to EOH, which I think most of you guys are from.
Yeah, all of us.
House of Excellence.
Yeah, man. I think with Dr. Musam Tombeni was there as well. So those are the things I wanted to raise.
Perfect. Well, look, let's get into the episode as per usual. We always start the episode with an interesting case study or something that our viewers may be interested in. And Nasim, you're going to tell us about this study that was presented.
Yeah, so let me give you like a quick story, like imagining. Imagine this. Imagine you with a girl, and sometimes you clown and you say, "Hey, how was it? How was my penis?
Wow!
Did I satisfy you?
Wait, is that how you say it?
No, I'm just giving an example.
How was my penis?
Yeah, was I not the
that?
biggest that you've ever seen? Right? Or, I'm sure you've never seen anything this size. This is probably what they say. You know what I mean?
Could be good or bad.
Exactly. You don't want to hear the answer, but you still want to hear the answer.
Okay.
So you
Yeah,
usually
sorry,
want to be the
just to
biggest.
cut you a little bit. I think that personally, I've never asked that question. And the reason why I wouldn't ask that question is because I don't think I'm psychologically ready for the answer.
Fear.
it's fear. I mean, imagine she's like, yo, my goodness.
However,
I would
some
die.
scientists wanted to explore that answer, and what did they find?
Okay, so they did a study with. They can't obviously like they use 3D models. So they set up a sort of ladder of penis sizes, 3D modeled sizes, like dildos basically, and they asked women which one do you prefer, but they also asked them which one do you prefer once off or regularly, right? So women preferred like 17 centimeters once off. That's like their dessert, if you think about it, like they're just to experience it, right?
So
To have it
is this
regularly.
erect or flaccid?
Erect.
Okay.
And then they said, and then also they asked them which one do you prefer, like on a regular basis, and they chose slightly smaller, 16 centimeter.
1 centimeter.
Or just 1 centimeter less.
We've got a ruler
So
here.
literally, they were like, "This is what
this
I
is
want
length, eh?
once."
Yeah.
No,
in
please
my life.
put my arm up and compare it so the gents can see.
Wait, let me your forearm.
How do you want to
Okay.
put it?
So
Length
here,
and girth.
up till here. Wait, from here to
There's no
here.
girth.
Well, from where to where?
There's no girth.
Start from the top. Start from the top
The
so
ace
that
also-
guys can measure.
ace also-
From here down to there. So a full hand.
Okay.
Penwell's hand is what
dessert.
is dessert. What they want,
dessert.
and then just there
sorry.
is what they want all the time. I don't understand.
We're safe, gent. Hey, are we safe?
Are we doing
Are we
well?
safe?
We're doing very,
Are we
very
safe?
well.
Are we safe? Are we safe? Are we?
Optimal.
16 centimeters. If you guys still have a ruler, I think it's worth checking out.
What did the study find about 15 centimeters?
Asking
No,
for
they
a
did-
friend.
They just saw the average.
13, 12.
This probably also works, huh? It's within a standard deviation, obviously.
So what does that tell us, Nassim? What does that really tell us?
Tells you like, okay, what are you actually wanting? Because you know that men want 18, 19, 20, thinking that that's what is preferred.
Uh-huh.
But if let's say a woman tells you, hey, you know, your penis was actually really good, and the big ones hurt. The big ones hurt.
Is that a real thing?
Women say that your penis is a good size, the big ones hurt. This is like a sort of meme, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the woman will say, the man will get hurt and think, oh man, she's saying my penis is small indirectly, right? But it's true that, you know what, the big ones actually do hurt, and women actually prefer 16. But if you're 15, 17, don't worry about it. You're actually doing well.
Does a woman's vagina have a limit for most guys? Because, you know, guys watch porn and porn shows us crazy
Yeah.
things. Is there a limit
Extraordinary.
to a woman's vaginal depth?
There is a limit,
Yeah,
but usually it accommodates a lot. Like it does accommodate.
Does.
As you can actually train it over time to get bigger with your penis.
Deeper.
Deeper.
Hectic.
We had
Wow.
we had DJ Fresh on here last time, and we actually who was it? Who wasn't it? Was you, Nassim?
Yeah.
Who Suel explained to Fresh that he has told us that there's a part of his manhood that has never felt the inside of a woman's vagina.
Sure, fresh. Sure.
No, that wasn't fresh. We were
was
talking about
Nassim.
our Ethiopian brother over
Oh,
here.
it wasn't fresh. Hey,
It wasn't
hey.
fresh.
I can imagine. It must be one of the most painful things because the little bit I've researched around the male reproductive system is, and you guys will correct me if I'm wrong, it gets more sensitive closer to the tip, to the I don't know.
No.
Base.
When you put in the
No.
base,
No.
no,
Glans.
The tip is the
head is the
most sensitive.
most sensitive.
the head is the most
part of
sensitive.
Sensitive, yeah.
The sensation towards the base are not there because I'm trying to think if you can't get your whole thing in, is there anything you're missing out on, or is the tip the only boy that has to have fun? Which means then 2 centimeters, Baba, is
Should
good
be
enough.
good. Should be for the guy. But now we're
We good
talking
here,
about your
Baba. We
partner
good
as well.
here.
I mean, you'd be good for yourself. There's a concept in psychology. I can't remember if it's the Freudian, but stages in your life that you need to overcome as you're growing. It's not Freud, sorry. It's Erickson, I think. Erickson's life stages. And it speaks to sexuality as well, that when you get to a certain age, past teenage, when you're a teen, you want to satisfy yourself. But when you pass that stage into your 20s to 30s, you now need to start satisfying your other significant person. It's not that they need it, but it should be a need for you as well, that you see satisfaction in your partner. And if you don't thrive in that stage, and then Erickson or Davis says that you failed in that stage, and therefore in your life going forward, you might then fail going further in those psychological stages. So it's sort of like a must that you should want to satisfy. So about 2 centimeters, those guys, I think teenagers, I'm not sure, I don't know 20 and 30-year-olds that say, I got mine. I don't care that she didn't get hers.
You want to make
know?
sure that you satisfied her.
Most men these days at our age and up, they want their partner. That's why that question comes up, how was my penis?
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the most insecure questions a man can ask. I don't know. It's the most... A man who asks that question, I think, doesn't have confidence, he's insecure. Because what answer are you expecting from that woman? What answer are you expecting? Do you want the truth? Do you really want the truth?
No, he wants a lie. And he says
He
it
wants a lie.
whispering there. How was it, baby?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, daddy.
You know?
But I think that begs the question, is there a relationship between penile dysmorphia and risky sexual behavior? What do you guys think?
What's penile dysmorphia for us ordinary folk?
Nhlanhla, you want to jump in?
Yeah. So penile dysmorphia is basically what Ness has just explained. So someone who's not happy with the size of their penis, and it can be for various reasons. Sometimes it's just a parallax issue. So every time when you look down, you think it's small.
Sure.
Or you spend a lot of time with gents, especially when you're in a lot of guy sport and you spend, you tend
The
to
gym
compare,
showers, etc.
you compare yourself a lot. So it's those kind of factors that lead to you having this dissatisfaction, which is now actually starting to affect, your daily life and how you interact with people and your partner.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes a dysmorphia.
Would you say it's
So-
like a small man syndrome?
Yeah. So basically, the question is: so if it's small man syndrome. So if you're constantly thinking about the size of your penis and whether or not you satisfy women, would that contribute to risky sexual behavior? So you testing now.
Yeah.
Now you wanna test.
You wanna prove that, hey, I'm a real man.
I'm a real man.
Yeah.
It's big enough. Yeah. So I think that's where the question is. Do you think?
Okay.
And I think without explaining too much, because I could, but the end result of that could be men who end up raping, who end up abusing because of that small man syndrome that you're saying. They go around testing and they're not getting the satisfaction, and the women are not saying to them, yes, Summer Sunday was good, baby. They keep getting the negative, and they get negative from their friends, and they're like, no, I go home and I look in the mirror, I'm like, I need to prove myself, And I find a woman who's a small girl walking out in the street, I grab her, pull in the bush, choke her, beat her, rape her, I'm just proposing that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
So, I know we were laughing about this whole thing of how men look at the penis sizes and all, but it could potentially have this outcome that I'm talking about. And maybe we need to nip it in the butt.
It's one of the least funniest topics,
Yes,
by the way.
exactly,
And
exactly.
we somehow, somewhere need to find a solution for men to be confident in their manhood. If it's small, for example, comparatively, maybe it is 12 centimeters. Understanding, I think, studies like this is very important to know where you kind of sit. You're like, okay, look, it's a bit small, and that's erect, I'm assuming.
Erect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's important.
Sorry to interrupt you, but people don't realize there's two concepts. You're either a shower or a grower. You either are already, from flaccid, you just go erect and then that's the size. Or you're quite small when you're flaccid and then you become animal.
The Incredible Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk and what's his Bruce Banner? Yeah. So that there's two concepts, and so a lot of men don't even know that exists.
Yeah. So you might find a guy with the long penis in the showers, and when it gets hard, it just
like
gets
the
hard.
same.
Exactly.
And yours is tiny in the shower, especially after showering. But boy, when Bruce Banner gets angry or excited.
It's a problem.
Sorry, Vilas.
No. What I wanted to say is, actually, I'm not sure if it's the same study, but I've once seen a similar study. I think it looked at comparing adults to teenagers, and it basically was talking about that. The fact that, yes, although teenagers or younger males may have, when they flaccid, it might be smaller. Usually, when they erect, it's actually quite large. Sometimes it's even more than the adult version. So I'm not sure if it's
Sorry, are you saying teenagers, when you're a teenager, you're more of a grower?
No,
and then when you're older, you're a shower? I'm not sure.
Yeah, so when you're a teenager, you're
Yes.
more of a grower. and when you're
Okay.
an adult, you're more of a shower.
It just hardens when
Exactly,
you're old. Okay.
Yeah. Because they look at their uncles and their fathers and they're like, oh,
Sure.
my penis is not that
Sure.
size. And they don't know that, they just showers, or they could be showers.
Yeah. The other important thing to think about when we're speaking about self-satisfaction when you're younger, I got mine, so I'm good.
Yeah.
Versus making sure that your woman is satisfied is getting men to understand men and women, how long is sexual intercourse meant to last? Normally, in a healthy space. You're not now on camera trying to show off to whoever. So, and then compare that for men and women. That a guy is good with 2 minutes. I'm good. I got my tip in. I got my 3 minutes. And then for a woman, what does she want? How much length satisfies her? And then how long would she like you to go for outside of porn disrupting and the like? I know Vish hasn't said anything. I'm worried. Or maybe he's still calculating the ruler. Like, hey, Baba,
No.
16,
So it's just
17.
like taking in obviously all the facts and things. So it's again, I mean, someone who has say like more than 20 centimeters could perhaps maybe even think, oh well, I'm already good here, so no matter what I do, my partner is going to be satisfied. Whereas someone who's on the other spectrum may say, hey, look, there are other things in which I can do, or you may feel more inclined to perhaps like obviously spending more time or doing more foreplay, or instead of just saying I'm just gonna chuck this big thing in here, and the person's gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I think it's like different things to consider as well. So as you were saying, like what do you think is like what is an average time for intercourse per se? Someone who may think themselves as gifted might say, oh well, I can put this in for like 2 minutes and
I'm good.
I'm good. She's going to be good. He's going to be good, whatever, depending however you...
But also the thing was that like the vagina can go to like 10 centimeters erect, right? So you don't really need 16. They just
The vagina?
The vagina can extend like 11 centimeters, like 10 centimeters, right? So you don't actually need 16. It's what the women just say they prefer, because they can also accommodate more, right?
So a woman's vagina
Can extend.
takes 10, 11.
Yeah.
And then you push the extra 5.
Exactly. Then it accommodates, right?
That's interesting. I didn't know that. That's something for Gents to know. Guys, 10 centimeters.
You're
You're in full, Baba.
You're fine.
Then you can push
But
further.
the other point we tried to make also with DJ Fresh the other day was that like, look, it's not only just about penis in. There's also other stuff, erogenous zones, the foreplay. For women, sex starts from foreplay, right? So, and even the glands is the most sensitive for the men. But like the glands for a woman would be the clitoris. And men will completely not even know what that is and not even stimulate that at all. And like 80% of women orgasm only by clitoral stimulation, right?
80%.
80%.
80%.
Yes.
Only orgasm
By clitoral
from
stimulation.
stimulating the clit.
Yes.
Okay.
And they will not have an orgasm just by penetration. So she can have a penetration and wonder why she's not having an orgasm, but meanwhile, the guy's completely missing the clitoris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So outside of the small man syndrome, which is potentially dangerous, and guys, if you think your penis is small, please don't go out there and try and prove to the world.
Yeah.
But the positive potential is maybe guys who are less secure, of which they shouldn't be, they would probably put in extra work into the other stuff, whereas the big guy doesn't. So maybe to the big guys, put in extra work. To the small guys, keep up with the extra work. The ladies like it. But 80% clit, I think, is very important for whatever size. Master your woman's clit, I guess, is the lesson.
Pen asked the question. Basically, your question was about how long should the vaginal latency time last. Basically, when you start intercourse, how long should that last?
Sure.
There's a big misconception, and I think the difficult part also that causes the misconception is that it's very subjective, and it's person to person and what you are influenced by. Because all of us here can attest that we get men who consult us and they'll be like, I used to last 30 minutes, now I last 15 minutes, doc, I have a problem, And you like, okay, we do the whole questionnaire of premature ejaculation and they don't fit into the category at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, 15 minutes is fine. I mean,
15 minutes is long, boy.
When-
Have you ever been in a fight?
Time for 15
minutes.
minutes.
But
minutes
have you guys ever like, I mean,
pumping.
probably when you were like teenagers or something, and like you get these stories of like your mates and things saying, I went the entire night. And
rounds.
you're like thinking, sure. That time I can barely sleep from like 10 till 6.
Exactly.
And you pumping from 10 till 6. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Unbelievable.
It's like, and you're like, oh, did you guys take breaks? Maybe like 1 or 2, and you're like,
just for water, but then I was back at it.
But then,
Yeah.
but that's
like-
like, if you actually think about it, that's probably like
Guys,
a pipeism.
There's exactly.
It's
There are times where 10 seconds is fine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for gents, 5 to 10 to 20 seconds. We're good to
there are
go.
situations where 10 to 20
And what are those
seconds are fine.
situations?
Eh?
I
What
don't
are
know of
those situations?
myself. Educate
What we
us.
call a quickie. Maybe it's just quick
Let's just
WhatsApp
put it
clips.
simple. Just put it simply. There are times when, I said this, like someone said to me consulting, and he said, I can go good 5 to 10 minutes, but there's certain styles that my wife does. When she does that and I see it, I'm done within 10 seconds.
Mike
of her
Tyson,
going
boy.
into that style. So
When she locks and does the
you understand.
knockout.
So these things, I think they all have their different perspective, their own situational. So there is situational premature ejaculation as well. There's 4 types of premature ejaculation, and situational is one of them. And I think that's a healthy premature ejaculation when they are situational. Because I can give you another example. This guy told me that.
Sorry to cut you. Why don't you just define the 4 types just so that we...
Okay, so you have lifelong premature ejaculation, and that's where you've had premature ejaculation since your sexual debut. So since the first time you had sex and all your encounters, you've had sexual intercourse that was not satisfactory in terms of its time to both you and your partner. And that's defined usually as less than 2 minutes. There's a lot of different definitions, but that's the most accepted one. So that's lifelong. And lifelong premature ejaculation is very difficult to treat because it's probably in your genetics, okay?
Hectic.
Unless you have a thyroid problem, that's the biggest one that's being researched now. If you're having underactive thyroid or overactive thyroid, mostly underactive. And it doesn't go away if you don't use the medication. Okay, we can talk about what the medication is. Then you get acquired premature ejaculation, and basically what acquired premature ejaculation is that you used to last a satisfactory amount of time for you and or your partner, and now it's changed, and that's usually sort of psychological, where you have interruptions in your life. Stresses
So just to cut you a bit. So is this with the same partner? It's now changed, or you with a different partner?
It can
And
be either or.
Not satisfactory, or either or. Okay.
So lifelong is any sexual encounter. Acquired can also be any. But what you'll see in acquired is that there's a possibility that when they're with one person, they find, when they're with another person, they're not. They might find that with the wife, that they're having intermarital problems. They're having this problem. But if they enjoy outside, they then
You
find,
probably last, I was going to say, you probably last longer outside. But if the stove is hot outside,
No, there's no way.
you also might last shorter. Sorry.
So that's going to the third one, which is situational.
Yeah.
That's situational premature ejaculation, where that's the example I was going to give now of a story a guy told me that he's been seeing this girl for about 4 months. They kiss, they go out on dates, he's not in a rush. And she's always like, no, I don't want to have sex. And he's like, fine, he's playing the long game,
Yes,
He's
man.
thinking like a winner.
90-day rule.
Yeah, he's thinking like a winner. He's not like, I don't want this girl anymore. Every time he sees her, he thinks tonight it's going down. But now it's been going on for so long that he's just resigned himself to be like, you know what? I'm not going to get sex. It's fine. I still really like this girl. And then one night, unexpectedly, she starts ripping off her clothes, ripping his
Jeez.
clothes, and just grabs D and gets on top of it. He's done in 5 seconds. You gone.
Yeah.
You understand?
Past.
That is a typical
graphics. See.
situational.
Sure.
That is a typical situational premature ejaculation. So whether it's
That's number 3.
that's the third
Okay.
one.
You haven't given the fourth. Okay.
And then so that can happen in that scenario. It can happen where a lot of unexpected. You go out, and all of a sudden you're with someone you never expected, and you're done. So that's situational, and then you get pseudo premature ejaculation. That basically means that it's not actually premature ejaculation. It's
You
in your
think
mind.
it is, yeah.
And those are the men who say, I go for 10 minutes, it's too quick. I used to go for 20. Those men need to really be counseled and understand what sex is, how it's supposed to be, learn things like foreplay and things like that. So those are the 4. And it's very important for men to understand them, because many men who have acquired, they don't believe that. I mean, no one wants to be told that you need medication for the rest of your life in order to perform sexually, you know. And to be honest, the world through, premature ejaculation hasn't been seen to or dealt with in terms of the scientific world as what we believe it should have. It hasn't been given the time, the resources to study it, you know. And so there's one company that's come out with a new medication. Well, not a medication. It's sort of like a round electromagnetic device that sticks on the perineum.
Jeez.
So between your anus and your scrotum,
Where are we going now?
they stick it on there. You stick it on, and then you start sexual activity. And when you feel you're about to come, you or your partner presses the button and it switches on.
And what does that actually do?
So then, I mean, your ejaculatory...
Shots the sperm back.
yes,
Go back, Baba.
your ejaculatory sort of function
Roadblock.
is those muscles there in that area. They're the ones that start contracting and start pushing the sperm out. So this thing is only in America and in the UK so far being sold there, and it's very expensive. But when you press the button, it stops those muscles from contracting, and it's actually improved vaginal latency time quite a bit, up to 5 to 9 minutes by pressing that button. So it's a difficult thing to treat, and men don't understand it well. And even us in the medical world, we don't understand it well. We just, pen. You say you're not lasting long, here's medication. You don't know what it is. You Google it. You're like, I don't have psychological problems, depression. Why am I drinking this? And you throw it there and you go down, because now you can't perform. Next thing, you can't even get erect because you have anxiety, you have stress. You don't believe in yourself as a man anymore. Your woman starts complaining. She starts cheating. She comes back. Now you're beating her. Now you're in court because
it's a slippery slope. But I mean, we're talking about a lot about ED, erectile dysfunction. I think you mentioned like mental anxiety and those types of issues that contribute towards this, but it can also just contribute towards your libido. You know, your actual sex drive. And I just wanted to open up the floor to talk about a little bit more about libido. How's your libido, Penuel?
Hey. I've got 2 questions. So the first one, if you guys can suggest a rule of thumb, because yes, it's person specific and it's subjective. Sex 5 to 10 minutes, and then maybe foreplay, depending on the woman, maybe another 10 to 15. Of which foreplay should be easier because you're focusing on the clit. Just for gents to know out there.
Yes.
5 to 10 minutes, you're good to go, and then make sure that you're playing with the right, you're DJing.
In the right places.
DJing in the right places, 10 to 15 minutes. That's the first one. Then the second one is any idea on retiring from sex? Are we supposed to at some point, maybe this speaks to the libido, at some point be like, oh no, I listened to the Gents Clinic at some point and they said, look, for a woman, I think after 40, you start winding it up. For a guy, I think after 55, guys, look, let me focus on my grandkids. Should we be thinking in terms of retiring from sex at some point?
Firstly, 2 things. I mentioned this off camera to you. One of the highest rates of STDs are actually in old age homes.
No.
So
No, you can't say this. I thought you were joking. This was one of those lame...
No. So that's the first thing. So there are, I think sex is a natural part of life. As human beings, you want to experience that pleasure, and it is one of our desires. And I don't think that goes away ever. I think because of hormones and life stress and anxiety and whatever else, your sex drive may drop as the years go by, but never that it's encouraged that you should ever stop if you have the urge to do so. Why Why would there be a need to stop? You don't need to stop.
Please say that thing again about old age homes, because maybe some people missed it.
I want to know
In
which old age homes.
In old age homes, they found, and a number of studies, you're more than welcome to go Google it, you'll find that there's a very high rate of sexually transmitted diseases.
Crazy.
Because, I mean, even in that population, there are men and women who are often alone, their families have left them, and they find comfort and pleasure in each
Casual
other.
sex at an old age home.
That's
So I had theories off camera around what happens. So it might be casual sex amongst the oldies, having a good time, some
Yeah.
orgies, hey, wherever your granny and your grandpa.
You'd be
But then
worried.
there were some theories of maybe some of the men, the older men, hire prostitutes to come in. Then they get something. We spoke off camera about. We've got
I don't know how many old age homes would allow that now.
They obviously have to sneak them in.
Yeah,
No, that's my
okay,
nurse that my son sent to come in. Then the other thing is we've got a prison warder issue. We've had a prison warder issue in South Africa where prisoners fall pregnant because the warders had sex with them. And I was wondering how much
Wow.
of the nurses at these places might get a granny being like, sorry, doc, can you just rub me here? You know, I'm feeling a bit... You never know.
Wow.
Just to try and figure out why would we have high STD
Well,
rates
look,
at old age
my
homes.
theory is that libido never dies. I think some people have higher, some people have lower. It's, as Brendan even said, I think it's the same with erectile dysfunctions. It's situational, periods of time in your life. Some may find that now they have all this free time. And they've
Jeez,
never had
Hugh
this free
Hefner
time
in the
before.
old age home.
Their whole lives they've been hustling, they've been working to build a family, a legacy, and now they've just got nothing else to do. And they're like, well, I never actually had the time to do the deed.
Yep.
So let me do it.
Yeah, I think
probably
also,
orgies.
But I don't know why, Penwell, you are avoiding the question of how's your
It's
libido?
probably orgies.
How's your libido?
There's these undercover Hugh Hefners in the old age homes living their best lives. I don't know how my libido is. I think it's okay. I'm one of the gents in the world who thinks their penis is small. I
Okay.
know how much it affects your psychological state. I might have a bit of small man syndrome, maybe. I'm saying this because I read somewhere someone saying a lot of guys with small penises end up going to make a lot of children to almost prove
Yeah,
I'm a real man. So I've got 6 kids from 4 mothers.
Okay.
So someone could look at that and be like, well, you're trying to prove something to someone that when you're a real man, you must have a lot of sex. What do these, maybe they like you have a big dick, and it's like, no, it's not like that. So I don't know.
Was
But I
your-
know I've thought about it a lot.
was your having 6 kids, was it you being promiscuous or was it intentional?
All
That
my
I
children are
want-
intentional, luckily.
Okay.
Okay.
So you wanted 6 kids. You or
Yeah, I
More
did.
than-
No, I'm
more than
only
one.
raising this on the topic.
Okay.
I'd like to think I'm largely sexually conscious of what I'm doing. I try to do the right things. My
Okay.
things are planned. I think I've got a normal libido. The other misconception is if you have a lot of kids, people think you're having sex all day.
yes.
And then I have to tell them, look, it takes 6 sessions of intercourse to have 6 kids.
Exactly.
You've probably had more sex than me. It's just you used the condom at the time. The
Yes,
chick
yes,
was on
yes.
contraceptives.
Yeah.
Maybe had a
Yeah.
Well, a
miscarriage.
variety of
Could
different
be
other
so many other reasons.
factors, yes.
I don't think I have a high sexual appetite, to be fully honest. I don't like porn. I do think porn psychologically messes up a lot of people,
Yeah, we discussed that on the podcast.
including women as well. Their expectations, which then put pressure on you,
Yeah.
become a huge problem. And I do consider the idea of one day retiring from sex, or maybe let's call it what we call
Well, I
recreational.
mean, you've clocked the game if you really look at it. You've
I
already
read
clocked the
Gear
game, so I
6.
don't think you need to worry about.
There was an article I read or a paper that I read. It took a group of men who were actually above 70 with prostate cancer. But it didn't. It took that sample. And how many of them who had prostate cancer and were perhaps living with catheters, so intra-urethral catheters, and how it affected men and women. It looked at women with breast cancer. How these people over the age of 70 felt that their sexual desire or sexual life in general was disregarded by their treating physicians. And many of them actually said that, yes, I still want to have sex. I still have a libido, but I have this thing in my penis 24/7, you know. And then it actually made me test it out. I saw a man, he was in his 80s and living with a urethral catheter, and his wife was there. And I asked him, do you still feel sexually, like, do you still have a sexual desire? He's like, yes, I do. But, I'm old, and so I've accepted it. So I said, why don't you ask your urologist to put this catheter on top? You can put it in directly into the bladder instead of in through the penis. And he's like, I didn't think of that, And I'm like, don't you think if he'd done that, you would feel like you're able to have sex again? He's like, yes, I would, And I'm sure my wife would. I haven't touched in like 10 years or whatever it was.
There is actually some truth, I think, and some fallacy in that. First being like, obviously, with someone obviously having prostate cancer, they either on anti-androgen therapy or depending on what stage and stuff and what treatment they've had. But a lot of the patients are on anti-androgen therapy, of which will drop your libido. So there's that factor as well. And then you mentioned about like transurethral catheters. So there are a lot of patients where you would say, why are you using this? And then there are obviously surgical alternatives. And then, as you mentioned, substituting it for a suprapubic catheter. So in our urology clinic, I mean, pretty much most patients would be counseled on opting for. So, I mean, even having a suprapubic catheter is also lower risk as compared to a transurethral catheter of developing a malignancy as well. So it's not just sexual benefits, it's also like avoiding
that side effect.
Just to digress a little bit, I have a question for panel.
Oh boy.
Actually, 2 questions. So it has something to do about divorce rate, right? I mean, we all know that South Africa has a pandemic in terms of absent fathers and absent parents, absent fathers. So my first question to you is, especially in Black or African families or African people, from your own perspective, why do you think that is? Why is it that you find? I mean, even personally, I mean, I have a lot of gents with kids who are confident and happy, and they see nothing wrong with their lives and having all these kids that and not that, I mean, they're not involved. They're involved, but I'm saying there's this culture that we have to agree is amongst us. Why do you think that is? And the second piece of the question was about yourself, right? You have 6 kids, obviously, like you said, with 4 different mothers, right? What are you doing to be an intentional or present father to all these 6 kids? I mean, I'm sure there's challenges.
And how do you do it also?
This is a can of worms, and it's a very deep rabbit hole. I'm going to try and keep it short. But if ever we get the opportunity, it's worth discussing over an hour or 2 hours. There are philosophical aspects to your question. There are cultural aspects to your question. And then there's the reality. The philosophical is things that I think Andrew Tate and Akon have raised. The idea of how present must a father be for a child to be successful. And then there's these studies around whether they're good or bad. A home without a father, the boys tend to have higher testosterone levels. Probably because they're forced to man up. Or maybe they end up joining gangs, whatever the case may be. And where dad is present, the testosterone levels are lower, maybe because the alpha's there. So I don't need to be the big boy, and I don't know. So there's those philosophical thoughts. Then there's cultural thoughts around who decided what a present and absent father is, and how did we do it before colonizers came here. I've sat in a court or with a family advocate dealing with an issue of access to my one child. And they were speaking around the idea of you must take the kids to the park and push them on the swing and take them out for ice cream. And I'm like, who decides that? We have a different way of bonding with our children as African men. So, for example, slaughtering an animal, doing some other thing is a form of bonding. So we do that. So the idea of, but I'm going to take her out for ice cream. And it's like, no, that's not what we do, because now I'm pretending to be someone I'm not. But how present were we? How present should we be for the best of the child? So those are cultural things. You watch TV, you see the nice white dad who's, come, let's go for ice cream. And then many of us, especially ex-Model C guys now, want to emulate that. And we're seen as good fathers. And the other guy who maybe takes his son to go and work, who's working with the son in the garden, who's slaughtering, who doesn't read bedtime stories, is seen as he's not a good father. My father never hugged me. He never told me he loves me. And you're like, who said that? The fact that your father would push you or punch you or leave you a piece of chicken, that's his way of showing you I love you. So those become cultural. Then there's the real world of personal maybe. Do you feel you're doing best by your kids? Yes or no? And what does the best look like? And normally when I speak with parents, especially when we speak about schooling, I want to send my child to this school. This is how much I can afford. And I'm like, let's work on the end goal. Do you want your child to be a doctor? Do you want your child to own a practice, a hospital? And then let's work backwards. Because sending them to the most expensive private school may not be the best value for money. Is it a network? Are you looking for a school that has great maths and science, et cetera, et cetera? For me personally, and the reason why it'll go to a 2-hour conversation is I don't have the answers, and we need to break it down maybe with a psychologist of why would you want to have a lot of kids? What's wrong with you? Is there something wrong with you? Is there something wrong with men that want to have a lot of kids? I mean, kids are expensive. How do you afford kids? What is your lane? Do your kids go to private schools? Do they? How do you manage it? We understand for maybe the poor, because they sit at home doing nothing and they get busy and they live on a grant. But for you sound like a smart guy. Why would you do that? And we need to unpack what that actually means. All my children were conceived in Johannesburg. All their mothers were based in Johannesburg. I currently do not enjoy as much access with them as possible because the one mom got a job in Durban. My kids' maternal family is from Durban. So they based there and I see them once a month. It is not ideal. It's not what I want. Even if I only had children with her and I was based in Joburg and she was based in Durban, it would almost be the same dynamic. One of the mothers of my kids loves traveling the world. She's always wanted to explore life. She's a teacher. She started teaching English in South Korea. During that time, I lived with the kids. So for 8 and 6 years, respectively, the kids were with me. And then she asked to take the kids to China because she got a job in China. So for the past 4 years, the kids have been in China with her. COVID happened. I couldn't visit them. Now we could travel to China. So in 2023, I went to go and visit them. But it happened at the same time where the mom was now moving to Brazil. So now my kids are in Brazil, but luckily they visited last year, June, July, and they were with me now during the festive. Again, not ideal. But then again, if it was just me and her and she wanted to explore and I wanted to stay here, it's not the greatest. That's why I started with my kids were conceived here, the mothers were here. In an ideal world, at the very least, I'm supposed to be seeing my kids every weekend, the very least. But the dynamics are, and I'm not the type of guy to oppress a woman. What about my kids? Stay here. Everyone must live their best lives, but within reason. And obviously, we must consider the kids. I'm struggling with access with my one son. He's 10 years old. I've been struggling since he was a kid. The mom went on to get married. She had another child with the husband. They got divorced. He's struggling with access. So that's messy. I've gone to courts in Pretoria. That's not nice. And again, this could happen to any guy. I have one child with this lady. We got married, we got divorced, and I'm struggling. So I almost have a case study for so many different dynamics. It is not what I want. So when you speak about absent dads and those things hurt me. I'd love to be more present, more intentional. Yes, we use technology. I video call my kids and I spend quality time with them, but it is not ideal.
Exactly.
If I have to advise a guy out there, even with myself, I'm like, bro, unless you have some psychological issue like me and you want lots of kids, try and stick to the 2.5 or whatever's prescribed. 2 kids and a midget or whatever. Your 2.5 or your 2 kids for ease. Have your 2 kids, have one wife, and then be as present as you can. But then try and factor in cultural, philosophical, and make sure that even though, because there's a lot of married men who live at home with their children but are absent fathers. And those are some of the things people don't understand. My kids, anyone who's ever been around me and my kids love me. They worship me. My son Unkunzi, my firstborn, when he's around me, he does these weird things. And he told me at some point, I just love smelling your t-shirt, which is pretty dope. The guy loves me. My son Ushaga in Durban, my kids love me very much. So that's good for me. But at the same time, that's not a measure for me of being a good father because I don't need my kids to love me. I need them to be strong, to be independent, to function in the world out there. So it's a very deep conversation.
Exactly.
But I hope I've given you a shortish answer.
You've given quite a good answer because I think it also opened, like you're saying, it's actually a discussion, a podcast on itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking into the philosophical aspects. And for example, just personally, where I get my guidance of or what I consider as a present, you know.
Yeah.
But I think we'll probably touch on it. When we meet
Yeah,
again.
thank you. No,
Yeah.
it's such an important conversation.
It's important.
Jeez.
Yeah,
It,
and
it affects men's health because we have the highest prevalence, and I'm going to mention the word, I'm sorry to YouTube. We have the highest prevalence of male suicide. I think it's 4 times that of women.
Yep.
And part of it is this term called parental alienation, where men don't have access to their kids for a variety of reasons. The guy doesn't have a job. He was fired. He was retrenched. His wife is now, I hate you. No, the kids say they don't want to see you. Kids don't know what they want. Kids are meant to see the parent. Said to the family advocate, she was telling the mom, even if dad is a criminal, he's still the father of the child must get to know her criminal father, as long as he's not a danger to the child. So men's health psychologically is very heavily impacted by dick size, how good I am at sex, and then things like, are you a present father? Are you good? Do you know what a good father is? Did you ever have love? As old as we are now, and maybe we use cool terms like life coaching and mentoring now, but every man, let's speak about men, every man is meant to have a father and a son, whether it is your own or whatever.
Yeah.
There must be some GPS where you're like, hey, I'm not sure whether they're your age or older, hopefully older with more experience, to be like, look, I would do it like this. This is what I think. No, calm down. Women sometimes get like this, whatever. And you're like, okay. So that you also have like some kind of guidance. And the more you can get, the better. You sit with a panel of these guys on your phone and they just advise you, look, maybe let her cool down. Look, you don't have to see the kids all the time. Are the kids eating? As much as you're angry with her, send money. Hug your son. I know it's not normal. We didn't do that. Our fathers, for example, couldn't speak to their fathers. The fact that we get to speak to our kids is weird. And then our kids will look at us and be like, yeah, but you didn't marry mom. And you're like, the fact that I'm a present dad, bro, do you know how many kids?
Yeah.
So the dynamics are ever changing. It's a huge topic.
Can I ask a quick question? Because you spoke about, you were very intentional about having many children and having that many children. But what I wanted to know was it intentional for you to say, I want to have many children with many different partners, or you felt like I'm still searching for the right partner to be married to, or what's your idea of like marriage and having like a single partner and raising versus in the intentional way that you have had children? Do you feel like you did that intentionally and you are happy with the choice and the outcome, or do you feel like it may be more beneficial just retrospectively looking at it, and what do you think is best for society?
So I've got this theory of a perfect human that gets sold to us when we're young. People can debate it with me, it's fine, but it's largely white, male, blonde, blue eyes, went to an Ivy League school, is what they call it in America, and is maybe a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, marries a blonde, blue-eyed woman, and they live in this. And most of us try to move in that direction in various ways. And it's manifested in many ways with black women, for example, straightening their hair, bleaching. Some of us, we want to speak good English and, you want to play rugby with the boys because you want to get as close as possible to the perfect human. We're trying to break it now. Many people with the LGBTQI+, identifying as whatever gender you are, the decolonization agenda of love your dreadlocks and who you are. With that notion in mind, according to the perfect human dynamic, I'm very messed up. And a lot of my decisions are deemed wrong, morally and otherwise, by society. The idea of wanting to have a lot of kids, someone could be like, look, maybe there's trauma somewhere. Or maybe you saw it somewhere. Maybe you didn't have a family and you craved. I don't have all the answers because I delve in these things by myself, trying to find them. I've always fantasized about having a big family. I'm one of the guys I know in my life that was born to be a father. I love it. It comes naturally to me, whether it's disciplining or loving them or hustling money to get I love every aspect of being a dad, even when it's tough. So I guess I just wanted to have more. I normally compare it to other things, but people find that dehumanizing. There are people that fantasize about having a huge property portfolio, having a lot of livestock, I don't know, creating a lot of content, whatever the case may be. For me, it's almost like a mini purpose of I would like to procreate and create as many dope human beings as possible. Now, the part about having them with different moms, it's twofold. The first one is, I guess when you have that, we'd call it a messed up for ease mindset, is you then maybe want to start experimenting with seeing what can I create with that lady and that lady.
Yeah.
And people say, but that's wrong. And you're like, sure. I'm just telling you maybe how my brain works. The second part is I'm very thoughtful of women. I was raised by like a single mom. My mom raised us financially by herself. We'd see my dad every now and then. People would be like, oh, this is why is the psychology. We would see my father almost every weekend. But I have huge respect for women. And I have huge respect for women empowerment, the feminism movement in its purity, the gender equality, payment, etc. So I believe every woman, especially now, should ignite their dreams as far as they can. If you want to be president of Turkey, please go for it. If you want to build a hospital, go for it. If you want, whatever you want to do. So with that in mind, the type of woman I've been attracted to probably wouldn't really manage more than 2-3 kids because they've got careers, they're ambitious. I mean, I've told you about my moms, the moms who are based, which I think is a beautiful thing. I separate children and relationship, which for most people is also morally wrong. Get married, raise your children in a nuclear. But I separate it. I think having children is one of our most important priorities, responsibilities as human beings. If we stop having kids, the human race ceases to exist. So we need to have children. So whoever my great-great-great-grandparents were, whether they loved each other, how long my ancestors' dick was, if my grand was, what their dreams were, if they fought, if you were stabbed, for me is not as important as the fact that they got together to make the children that led to us today. So ideally, people are looking for a companion for life, and then they end up having children with that companion. For me, I separate it. I'm not searching for a companion per se. I wanted to have children almost as an isolated project, if you were. So I'm not searching for anything. I have children. I love my kids. My kids are dope. Their mothers, outside of any issues we may have with parenting, are thriving. They're happy, beautiful, intelligent, successful women from great families. And that's my story. But it's not a story. I don't want people out there to copy me, to live like me, to think I'm a role model. I'm not. I will advise you, 2 kids, get married, do the right thing. But then if you have this deviation from the perfect human like me, we can have the conversation. And deviations are things like being homosexual. Deviations are, you could have albinism and you feel some type of way. You could have a long dick and you're like, look, whenever I pull it out, women just get scared and they start screaming. Then we can speak about that and how to make your life work. That's when we came up with things like polygamy, polygyny, polyamory. But it shouldn't be mainstream. Everyone else should strive to be the perfect human. But if you're a deviant like me, then we can speak about how to do it in the most healthiest way so that your children are fine, their moms are fine, and you yourself, especially as a man today, you are in a good mental space.
I want to talk a little bit about your opinions on what you feel a man should be. You know, we talk about masculinity in society. I know. It's a very broad question.
It's a podcast on its own.
Every question today has been a podcast on its own. But to try and like hone it into specifically men and men's health and what we're kind of talking about here on our podcast, I want to get your opinions on, firstly, men and what it means to be a man, what it means to be an alpha. You know, they talk about the alpha male, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, and what that looks like for you. And why do we feel that the hormone that creates us as men or makes us men, testosterone, currently in society is demonized and looked down upon? And then generally, when you think of men, just touch on your thoughts on men's health-seeking behavior.
Men's health-seeking behavior?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Or are you familiar with the term health-seeking behavior?
You guys all owe me like a full 2-hour podcast with each of you to unpack like different things.
Yes.
So this is like
for example, I'll give you
intro.
an example. Like in your family, do you know if there was a history of prostate cancer. Do you know? Are you aware?
So maybe to
Do you
give
aware-
some context into what Swale is asking is that when patients come to us and we ask them, we want to screen you for risk factors.
Yeah.
And we say to you, Pen, your uncles or your dad or your grandparents, did any of them have prostate cancer? Did any of them die of heart attacks under the age of 55?
Yeah.
And then you'd look across at me like, I don't know, doc.
Yeah.
You know, my dad passed away at the age of 60. I don't know really what happened.
Yeah.
And adding on to that, the old people in our families, they keep secrets. I'm not sure
100%.
if like Indians
100%.
and Ethiopians, but coloreds, I
Yep.
know, black families.
100%.
Like now in your adult stage, you start finding out that Baniskabani's child
Yeah.
and so on is this came,
Yeah.
and this person is actually not really your brother. This,
Yeah.
you know, those things,
Yeah.
and so had this sickness, and that's why this person raised you. You know, all those things come out now. So that's really what Sohail is actually getting to, is that, yeah.
That question and this topic is probably on the same level of depth as the one about parenting and fatherhood. My father passed away February 2020, just before the lockdown hit in. So he was like, I'm going to leave you guys a gift to remember me when I lock you down for 2 years.
Think about me.
Anyways, I've got a love-hate relationship for my father. He's been a fascinating character in my life. Story for another day. So I was very intentional about figuring out my father's health, especially because he started getting sick. He had swollen legs, which I initially thought was diabetes. I remember sitting with a doctor at the hospital trying to go through his file. Number one, the doctor's like, don't go through his file. You're not allowed. I was so annoyed. As soon as he hit the corner, Baba, I was there in the file, trying to remember names. Because in my head, I'm like, how important is this? How important is it for the doctor? And look, in his defense, I can only imagine how many, I don't want to say ignorant. You have to be sensitive to patients and their loved ones. Because you might say something that impacts and they start screaming so you're like, let's just go with the default and be like, look, I'm the doctor. I know what I'm doing. But Penzo, the idiot, wants to know everything because I'm intentional about everything. So I'm like, doc, this is my dad. If he's got anything, I need to know because I might have it. And I need to warn my kids.
Yes.
So the doctor, I think, was just giving me the default answer, but I went through the book anyways. And I was looking for everything. I was looking for his blood pressure. I was looking for this and that. I've done a similar exercise with my mom as well, trying to figure out, because unfortunately, historically, we didn't have this type of Western modern medicine that we have now, where, let's say our white counterparts, they'll be like, oh, I remember my great-grandmother actually used to have. We don't have that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in black culture, you don't speak about death. It's a taboo. So what is the cause of Hi, you can't speak about. Yeah,
But
I
also
want to know. Hi, she was sick.
I think
That's all you need to know.
also like mental illness,
Mental illness
especially in
is a huge one because mental illness for black people is witchcraft.
Yeah.
yeah.
Full stop. What's wrong? Oh no, witchcraft. He was cursed.
He could have had epilepsy, and you're prone to epilepsy now, but you get told your grandfather
Witchcraft.
had demons.
Witchcraft.
Yeah.
Witchcraft. I'm loyal. And you're like, so we miss out on advancing medicine and healthcare and solutions because of this. And the reason it's such a deep conversation is because all of us, let me not just say black and colored, all of us need to take time to study. We study medicine, we study whatever, but we never study ourselves and our history and where we come from. My children, I'm intentional about them reciting their parents, their grandparents' names, their siblings' names, all those things to know who they are. And then anything, like if I've got bad teeth, we've got cavities at home, I'm like, except be aware. We have these things. Hey, your grandmother passed away from cancer. So just watch.
Which
Watch
is
you
not
eat.
very common, you know. Not a lot of people discuss those types of things. With,
People are sensitive and it's such a topic. So the men seeking health thing, so this is a gateway drug. Especially you ask me and I'm like, hey, look, I don't think my penis is big. They're like, look, if Penn said it, maybe I can also be like, Penn said his was 14. Don, I think I'm also 14. So if Penn was 14, I'm fine. So I'm fine. You know, Nassim said 17. Hey, I measured. Said, let me get a bone and I think it's important for guys to get comfortable speaking about these things so that then they can be like, hey, you can judge me, Baba. But the guys were like, 10 minutes is good.
Yeah.
I must focus on DJing.
And doing
the
other
clips.
things. There's so
So-
much more. Yeah.
So it is very important that we do that. It's very important that we speak about our diets. Some of us woke people speak about Dr. CB now, who was into alternative, plant-based. There are people speaking about African solutions now. Izinyanga, ubungoma, which is spiritual healing, which is why I said I'm passionate about healthcare as a holistic.
Yeah, you
And
should,
you guys are
should
just one
watch our,
branch.
our episode on Sangomas versus doctors. We had 2 Sangomas here.
So yeah, that's too dope. And it almost has to be a debate because that normally gets the best out of everyone.
People,
Yeah. So we need to debate these things. I think it's very important. I don't know if that answers your question on men seeking.
Yeah. No, and
Health
specifically
security,
the reason why I raised it is because, one of the new services that we are currently offering as our virtual online consultation platform is prostate health screening. So we are now introducing a service whereby a nurse will come to your home, draw your blood at the convenience of you, and it's basically a screening test for prostate cancer without us having to examine you yet. Now, not to say that we don't need to do an examination, but that test can definitely aid in picking up a lot of cancers that would never have been. And over the last, I don't know, hundreds of years, I mean, prostate cancer rates are very high. And men don't know that they need to go get screened for it and those types of things.
Men don't know what a prostate is.
Exactly.
And they confuse it with testicular cancer. So it's a mess.
Yeah. And it's way, way more prevalent than testicular.
So
CRS.
anyone watching who doesn't know what the prostate is, this is what I like to say to my patients, is that a woman has a womb
Yeah.
and a man has a prostate. They're almost in the same position. It's just that the prostate is smaller and it sits in a similar place to where a woman's uterus would sit.
Okay.
And it helps in semen production. That's all. Vish should be saying these things.
That's important.
Why Vish is
How
quiet.
would you, what do you tell your patients when they...
What's a
They're
prostate?
like, I can't pee at night. Oh, actually, I pee too much at night.
Most of the time, it's just I have to do like an anatomical drawing.
Yeah.
So you draw it.
Yeah, I think it's the
So
easiest.
says
You guys shove fingers up.
Yeah.
You guys shove fingers.
We have to.
You have to.
Way.
How else?
Way.
How else are we going to?
Wait till you know how we do prostate biopsies.
Yo.
Tell us, Vish.
And
Tell us. I think everyone would want to
Easy.
know, including Penuel.
No, this is important. This
Tell
is
us,
important
tell us.
because most men, even when they start hearing the conversations around prostate, are like, I'm never doing it.
Yeah.
So we need to find a way to ease.
Yeah,
because this
tell
thing
us, Vish.
kills them, sadly.
So, as you mentioned before, obviously, prostate screening involves doing a PSA, which is your prostate-specific antigen, which is age-specific. So it's not just a value for in general. So generally, it's
So
age-specific.
this is taking bloods.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you do that in combination with the digital rectal examination.
That's the finger in
So
the
that's
bum.
the finger in the bum. So you're feeling the prostate for any
You do that.
nodules. Well, I
You
do
put
it
your
as-
finger in men's bums. I'm just trying to.
All of us.
Yeah, all of you.
All of us.
We've all
You have
done
to,
it
yeah,
at some
we
point.
all
yes.
have to.
But
Please don't shake my hand after
specializing
this
in-
episode. We can just
We
fist
wear
bump.
gloves. We wear gloves.
Sorry.
So apart from that, there are obviously a few other questions, some terms, things like that. But those are the two mainstays. Okay, say for example, you feel suspicious nodule on the prostate or the prostate-specific antigen, the blood tests are abnormal and it's high. Then you'd proceed with the prostate biopsy. So apart from that, you ask about family history, all of those symptoms, things like that, which we'll get into more detail. But essentially, the prostate biopsy, there's two different ways of doing it. So generally, we do it transrectally, which involves us putting so there's an ultrasound probe. I'm not sure if you've seen how an ultrasound looks like.
The one they use on women.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the
that
Yes,
one,
yes, a
yeah.
sonar.
That one.
But it's not that probe. There's a different probe. It's a long probe.
Huh?
It's a long probe which goes into the rectum. Okay, so
Show us on the ruler there.
How long is it?
it's probably as long as
Come on.
Hey.
And I'm also worried
Long
now.
as the ruler.
that's it's a bit
Please
shorter.
carry on, Dr. Naidu. Yo, cheers.
So essentially, from there, there's a needle, which is a specific biopsy needle, which goes alongside that probe. So alongside that probe, you're able to see on the screen exactly the prostate. Basically, you'll be able to view it. So with that needle, each time you shoot the needle, it takes a piece off the prostate. It's just for sampling in the lab to assess for cancer cells.
This thing is very scary. It sounds very intrusive.
It
It sounds very uncomfortable.
Definitely is.
But men need to understand that this could save your life.
Yeah.
So you can choose.
100%.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, alternatively, obviously, if you get screened beforehand, and obviously earlier detection, the better. You know,
Exactly,
100%.
yeah.
Can we
you
maybe
can start
just
treatment before it gets to that level.
Where you
know?
have to do these
So
kinds
we
of
so
invasive tests.
a blood test versus a ruler up your bum to
To
get
shoot stuff.
Start
in your
early.
prostate.
Start early,
start
Baba.
early.
How
Start early.
regularly should we test?
But the thing is, ideally, to get a biopsy result, you have to do it.
Look, you'd have to
Eventually,
eventually do it,
yeah.
but it's not going to be for everyone. And
Well,
obviously,
majority of people.
Fish,
Yeah,
can you maybe
jeez.
stress why specifically as South Africans and Africans this is important? Because yes, prostate cancer, we speak about it worldwide, but why is it so important for South African men and Africans in general to have prostate assessment?
So again, a few of the things we've mentioned, poor health-seeking behavior among South Africans. It's also a stigma for men to go into the hospital and get checked out. So you might say, oh, but I don't have any problems. Why do I need to go in? Like, I'm not going in. I've never been to a doctor in my life. And we hear that very often. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
like people
you guys,
quite-
every single, pretty much almost every day, you see a patient that says, I never need to go in. I've never seen a doctor, but, I was forced in or something. Or you live with certain conditions and symptoms for a long time before eventually someone drags you now into the hospital.
Yeah.
What are the rates between white and black? Maybe that's I should have put
Yeah,
my
no.
question
So
straight
I
like
was
that.
leading up to there. So in black African men, the rates of prostate cancer are much higher than in European men as well. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is also of people not really knowing in our culture here, in South Africa especially, not knowing what diseases my dad had, not knowing what diseases my uncle or my grandparents had. So you're not sure. Your uncles and stuff may have had prostate cancer when they were in their 40s.
Yeah.
So you think, oh, no, I'm 45, I'm fine. Meanwhile, at that point, you should have been screening already.
Do you know what Nelson Mandela had? Was it
He also
prostate
had
or
prostate.
testicular?
Yeah,
Prostate.
And Tutu.
yeah.
Desmond Tutu as well.
As well. Prostate.
But I think that's encouraging is that because look how long they lived. And I think they were Nelson Mandela, I think he was diagnosed in the 80s when he was still in jail. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I stand to correction. And Tutu as well was diagnosed
Early-ish.
early-ish.
It's
I think
important
in
to
the
raise the
90s.
names so that, again, we're
Yes.
removing the stigma. That
But
if Utata
they-
Mandela had this thing,
And
he did it
lived,
early.
Yeah, he lived the
Early.
extra 30 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
more with it,
But I think another thing, Vish, you pointed out last time about age and prostate cancer, that after a certain age, almost every male has prostate cancer. So,
Pretty much.
Huh?
I mean, after 80, we
Huh?
all kind of have some...
Aye,
So-
Baba,
so-
yeah.
so
Cancer
ideally-
or BPH?
Prostate cancer. So currently, the guidelines say that ideally, if you have a patient, it used to be 80, it's now moved to 75. But ideally, if you have a patient, you shouldn't really be doing a PSA on them at that age, because at that time they may have something else which may kill them before, prostate cancer. However, if you have done it and it's now abnormal, you have to now address it, which means you need to do the prostate biopsy. You need to start them on treatment if they do have it as well.
Yeah.
2 quick questions. I know I haven't answered what is a man.
We'll close with that. We'll close
How
with that.
how regularly should we do the prostate examinations, and at what age should gents be looking to start?
So
getting
like
assessed?
from 40 onwards. So you also need to know about your paternal history as well. So again, if you have a high family history, or like all your uncles, dad, grandparents, we've been diagnosed with prostate cancer when we were 40 something, it needs to be earlier. But generally from 40 onwards, you should be screened at least yearly.
Every year. Okay. I'm still going to revisit this after 80 or after 75 thing. Almost every man has. Hey, that's scary.
It's scary stuff, yeah.
What is a man?
Yeah. Or rather, give us your idea of what a true alpha male is. What,
I think let's do it in an African context. 'cause
Yes,
if we
in an
come to a
African
Western
context.
context,
It's probably
Yeah, yeah.
different.
it's
so
totally
obviously,
different,
if,
you
if
know?
we're talking to
Why is it
Penuel,
different?
So in South Africa, we're very historically cultural defined. We define ourselves with culture. I think you said recently you no longer identify as Zulu.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Ngiyaxolisa bafowethu, iningixolele.
Yeah,
So
We'll discuss it in Perpetua on
Yeah.
another platform.
So that's what I'm actually getting to, is that in South Africa, with our diverse cultures, you might identify as how your culture subscribes or
Yeah.
instructs that you should, whether it's isiXhosa or isiZulu or whatever, Venda, whatever. tribe.
Amaxhosa get initiated and they circumcise.
Yes, and then you are a
they,
man.
they choose have bar
Yeah.
mitzvah and the like.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So that's in Africa, whereas in a Western, it's when you turn 18,
which is
you
just a
become-
number.
It's just a number.
Yeah.
You know, another topic I want to raise is South Africa becoming westernized, but I think we have too much content to
we have
sit with.
Yeah, no.
too much.
With
Even
Yes.
this question is loaded. There's a documentary, I don't know if you guys have seen it, called What is a Woman? Matt Walsh
yes.
from
Yes.
the Daily Wire.
Yeah.
I just didn't like the conclusion of the documentary, but it was great. It would be great if he was to do a follow-up or someone else of What is a Man?
Okay.
Which is almost a similar thing. We are in 2024 now, and the idea of gender identity has become very, very layered and complex, to put it mildly. At its lowest level, you are born with a penis. I think the penis is very important. The penis is very important to identify. And then for me, secondary comes the hormones. So you generally have higher testosterone than estrogen. Those are the main two. Then from there, I think it gets very messy for many, many people. There are many homosexual men, queer. There are many alternative human beings. There are trans. There are who are born with a penis, maybe have high testosterone. Some have taken supplements, hormone injections to maybe suppress and all these weird things. But at its lowest level for me, if someone asks, what is a man to you? Was born with a penis, generally has higher testosterone than women. What is a man to me? And I think Dr. Matthews put it very well. It is largely defined on culture and those things. And I could maybe answer on many different platforms and we are governed by a South African constitution. Most of us live a Western life today. And we've still inherited the whole concept of the man must provide, whereas the woman nurtures. A lot of guys, even if they cannot provide, still hold on to that. That's why they get depressed. That's why they have low self-confidence, because they're like, I don't have a job, I can't provide. But provision seems to be very high on that list, even today, even at a time where women are doing very well in terms of making money. I forgot to mention this. So my 2 kids from Brazil are visiting me. This morning I told them I'm coming to sit with doctors. They thought I was very dope. And then, this was weird for me. My daughter, Africa, she's 10. I don't know why I mentioned, it's a bunch of male doctors. She's like, man. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, oh, when I think doctor, I think of a woman.
Okay.
Wow.
I was like,
Crazy.
what? So I was like, okay, she's a girl, maybe women empowerment, Powerpuff Girls, whatever. My son Unkunzi is 13. And right after Africa, I went to him and I'm like, when you think doctor, it's like, oh, normally think of a woman or a girl. I was like, that is
Wow.
wild.
That's wild.
I was like, when we grew up, a doctor is a man. So I forgot. I wanted to raise this when I raised the diversity thing. That was really interesting for me.
So Brazil is also woke now.
You can't run away from the wokeness, Baba.
No, but that's important because even when I talk, it's just a natural thing. When I'm saying, someone, have you been seeing your doctor? Oh, did he say this?
Yeah.
Did your doctor do this? Did he prescribe you this? Did he do this test? It's,
Yeah.
it's just shows where we come from culturally as a society.
100%.
And where the small ones are, their minds are at, and what's their influence.
They see a woman, they're like, doctor. You're like, oh, no, I'm a nurse. Like, oh, I thought you were a doctor. And then you guys wear scrubs, and nurses wear scrubs as well today. And nail technicians wear scrubs.
But it's strange because have you seen, like, as well, I'm not sure if you guys have experienced this in the hospital, but for example, patients may address a female doctor who's your colleague as a CC or nurse
sister.
or
Yes,
sister.
yes.
You know, and I mean,
Get
I
offended.
even take offense to that. Like,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
I
this
feel
is my
bad.
colleague. This is a doctor as well, you know?
But it comes from somewhere. We can't really blame people. It comes from somewhere. But the good thing, I guess, with kids is it's changing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if it's
That's
changing
true.
for the good if the assumption is that it's a female doctor. It's meant to be like, oh, is it a man or a woman?
Yeah. Yeah.
So provider is still big for generally across the board. I guess with provision comes money. The assumption is that we must make more money, even though the dynamics have changed. And it's one of the big things that's actually impacting there was a sub-part to your question around the issues we have in South Africa and the potential suppression and oppression of men, where we're in a space where women are being empowered, women are being given first dibs on jobs and those things, but we still expect men to pay lobolo. We still expect men to be the one to buy the home. We still expect the man to carry the lion's share of maintaining the kids. So that needs to be a conversation, a very frank conversation with women as well. The most empowered feminist woman who is a CEO and is making 200,000, 500,000 a month still expects a man to get on his knee and buy her a ring and lobola her. And, you know, how many men actually fall in that bracket of being able to out-earn her? If 1% of all South Africans are taking home 50,000 or something ridiculous. So
100%.
we need to have those conversations. I do believe, I do agree with the conspiracies that there's an agenda out there to weaken men in various ways. And unfortunately, some of you guys unawares are part of the ambassadors and the agents of the destruction of masculinity. A lot of the products that you guys prescribe, a lot of the solutions that you guys offer, and it's not your fault. It's how you guys were taught, because if you deviate, then they'll revoke your license. A lot of the side effects, a lot of these things, a lot of our habits, even as men. I mean, a lot of us are metrosexual today. We clean and we... a lot of them have taken away and they've moved us more towards what was deemed feminine.
Okay. Yes.
It is much easier. We can do the stats and the data. It is much easier to control and move women. I mean, even if you look at ads for products, number one is kids. If you pump stuff to kids, Dad, I want this. My friends have. Then the next one is women. You market to women. Us, we're skeptical. Why must I buy this thing,
Yes.
Baba? The tap is fine. Just vula. So we're a tough crowd. So you want men to also get into the, apparently when you travel, you should buy still water, because it's how. So we're getting into this culture of becoming more feminine in the way we carry ourselves, in our beauty, grooming, habits, and even in the way we interact. And sadly, this conspiracy of the elite that sits and decides on these things, they love divide and conquer. It works best.
Oh, yes.
I make more money as a bank if Pen and his woman live in separate homes.
Yeah.
It is easier to control Pen if he works in this company, the woman works there, and the children are at school, and then we do these things. And even for boy kids, you're almost demonized in school today, where we want the girls, take a girl child to work day. We need the women must speak up. The guys are like sitting there in the back and it's like, yeah, but you men beat us up and you rape us. So little boy's like, bro, I'm 14. I just masturbate. I'm sorry. He's already feeling like, I wish I wasn't a man. There are no jobs coming for me. I hear white people arguing the same things with BEE and reverse racism. I wish I was a black woman because then I know I'd get the job. If I was on a wheelchair, Baba, yeah, I'm scoring all the points. So men who are still traditional men need to have these conversations, particularly with women, because women also need to support us. It's not us versus you, which is what they want. It's what do you need from me? What do I need from you? And how can we make it work?
Yes.
If I'm physically stronger, you can scream all you want. When you need help, you're going to need me. You're probably better at other things. I can be like, look, women are you guys, but I need you. So how do we work together using our strengths? Are the strengths changing? Some of them. You're maybe a better accountant than me.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to be accountants. Babe, can you help me with my budgeting? You're brilliant at this stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. So we need to have these conversations. But more importantly for us, more immediately, is we need to bring real men back.
Yeah.
Because on that thing of women being easier to control and influence, think of it from a country perspective, which is easier. You've got China that has intentionally gone on to remove more feminine men as presenters on TV, whereas we're getting a lot of feminine men, whether gay or otherwise, that are our celebrities. They want more masculine men there. Russia is very big on masculinity because they want a population where the men are men. Now, if Russia and China has to fight an America that is woke and where the men are like, why would you think I'm a soldier? I mean, just because I have a penis. You know, those men come and they dominate. And historically, when it comes to war, when it comes to steamrolling, when it comes to colonization, it is the men that dominate. You can bring your fastest female athletes, your strongest female athletes, and then you bring, they don't even have to be the strongest. You can bring just okay male athletes and they'll, my brother loves this example, 15-year-old boys outrun the fastest women at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Now, that's just a nature thing. Now, it's sports, but now you take that to war. You take that to fighting. The guys at the top, some of them, they want to make masculinity exclusive. Because if I'm the only man in the room, if I'm the only guy with the gun, if I'm the only guy with a deep voice and hairs on their arms, all the women are like, I think he can protect us. But today you're seeing more and more men saying, hey, please help me. We've kind of lost it. It's one of the things I admire about the Afrikaner nation in South Africa. I get judged for it, it's fine. They're still very big on traditional masculinity, and I think it's something important. But without oppressing men who don't want to be masculine, who are comfortable being feminine, who are comfortable with alternative sexuality, do your thing. But for the most part, even you as a feminine man who is maybe queer, when they call it the barbarians, when the barbarians are at the gate, you also are going to be looking for real men to come and protect you. So we really need more of them because we're in a global competition. And the more masculine men, I mean, we see it as black men where we call, unfortunately, a derogatory term, these Nigerian men jollof. They're taller, they're more masculine, they seem to make more money wherever their money comes from. And our women just want to submit to them. He has money and he's big and he's... They argue with us. We debate, yeah, but you women are stealing our jobs. Yeah, it's because you guys are useless and you lost the country. It shouldn't be like that. We need to bring masculinity back.
Yes.
It is a dire need. It is a survival need. In the same way that we need to bring more feminine women back. We need that desperately as well. Because if we've got a big chunk of feminine women who are nurturers, who are submissive, who are very supportive, and we have a good bunch of alpha masculine men, we have a strong society. Then the greys in the middle can live their best lives.
You see, my issue with those who are on top, who are controlling everything from the top and pushing the media, pushing societies, that
pushing the drugs,
pushing all of that, you understand, is that they are, yes, the middle is there, they can do what they want, but my problem is that when you start influencing those children, young men, and those who want to be masculine, but pushing them to go towards the middle and towards the other side. Unfortunately, there are men who don't know how to use their masculinity, who abuse it, misuse it, and maybe they have influences. Maybe they didn't have parents. Maybe they grew up very bad life. Yeah. But we demonize all of masculinity because of that subgroup.
It's a small group.
Yes, who actually use it. I mean, we say men are trash. Men are trash even to men, even to other men. I don't walk downtown Joburg at midnight because men are trash to me as well. You understand?
Yeah.
So that's where my issue. But I want to say that healthy masculinity is good for not just men, for women as well, for the world in general.
Yeah.
We won't have the things that we have in society. We won't have oil rigs there in the middle of the ocean if we didn't have masculine men. We wouldn't have protectors. You wouldn't have that man to open as a woman. Wouldn't have that man to open that jar for you. You understand? Those are simple examples, you know, but it's a topic on its own. But we need to bring back masculinity and femininity. I think there's a 1950s movement now in America where women are now wearing stockings and skirts every day, and
that's cute.
You know, know, and being at home. There's a movement in America that I was quite enjoyed seeing. Yeah.
Called the 1950s movement.
Something like that. Yeah,
okay.
The women want to live as 1950s women again.
Yeah,
they are doing it themselves.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, look, you know, when you talk about healthy masculinity, you've come to the right place, Penuel, because we don't give medication that's going to make you less manly. We actually specialize in male confidence restoration. So if you you ever want a consult, you can get a free one from us. We're always happy to help you.
This
Any
was like a free
problems?
consultation itself.
Prostate screening, if you want to talk about premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, testosterone replacement therapy as you get older, or you may have the symptoms already. But that's all we have time for today. Make sure you check out our online store, guys. Online store.
Yep.
It's all fully functional. We can get medication delivered to your doorstep at your convenience. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Gents Clinic podcast with Penuel. My name is Dr. Seresa.
Dr. Vishen Naidu.
Dr. Naseem Sharif.
Dr. Nhlanhla Vilakazi.
Dr. Brendan Matthews.
Dr. Banbani.
And that's been another episode. Thank you guys and tune in next time.